Good afternoon, and welcome. This is allbayareasports.com, Bay Area Sports Magnified. We do this on Saturdays from 4 to 6. We've been trying to do it on Saturdays 4 to 6. Last week we had to take a hiatus. We're on today, as always, on FCC Free Radio. Glad you could join me. I am your host, Richard the Razor Ewing. This is fun. I really enjoy doing this. I enjoy coming here and talking Bay Area sports with my listeners out there. We are in beautiful downtown San Francisco, California, off of 24th and 7th. And I tell you something, it's a glorious day outside. I really couldn't believe how good it actually looked. But I will say this much. I couldn't get past the traffic. No matter how much I tried, the traffic was just a nightmare. I couldn't believe it. It was the same thing. You know, red lights, license plates for miles on end. Coming up 880. Eventually making the migration over to the bridge, and it was just a nightmare. Matter of fact, it was so bad that it got to a point where I had to merge over to what was considered to be the fast track lane just to be able to make some ground. And then even when I did that, and I tried to get back into the regular lane for cash, no one would let me in. There was like a wall of cars lined up. They saw me trying to get in. I had my blinker on. I was sitting there, literally, for close to 16 minutes. Waiting for someone to let me in, and no one would let me in. And I'm just like, wow, okay, you know what? So I had to make an alteration. I did. I managed to get here. So here I am. So glad that I'm able to be here. I hate to say my co-host, Mike the Shoe Shoeman, is not here with us today. He's dealing with load management. Can I say that? Okay. Load management, which is an NBA term now. And, he's actually out on vacation, out with his wife and family, and they're having a good time. So you have me today, and we're going to go ahead and go over Bay Area sports and have some fun. So the first subject I want to talk about today is, and I got to look at my sheet because my sheet is where I do all my references and everything from. So my first topic is obviously the Golden State Warriors. And you know why we cover the Warriors here. We cover the Warriors here because I'm a huge Warriors fan. This is what I do. I love it. So we're dealing with the Warriors. The Warriors are in the playoffs, and I think it's the 5th straight year they've done this, and this is amazing because this is an amazing team, amazing organization, amazing franchise, and they are in Oracle. They have the Clippers first round, and when you look at the matchups, there really isn't a matchup. The Warriors are obviously the most dominating team out there, but they are playing against the Clippers. They're playing against Doc Rivers, and this is a coach who has coached against the Golden State Warriors so many different times. And so at this point, even though he's done this, the favorite is still going to be Golden State, okay? Because they got Kevin Durant, they got Klay Thompson, they got Draymond Green, they got DeMarcus Cousins, and not to mention Steph Curry. So at this point, you're probably thinking, you know what? Why are we even doing this? Well, we're doing it because it's the NBA, and that's kind of the way things are done. So it's Golden State versus the Clippers. Game 1, the Warriors obviously take command of the first part of that round, and they get Game 1. They're still in Oracle. They go to Game 2, and they're dominating Game 2. As a matter of fact, they're dominating so much, I think by the third quarter, they're up by 30 points. So everybody's thinking, okay, ho-hum, they're probably going to get the second win. And all of a sudden, the Warriors just go to sleep. They just all of a sudden decide, well, you know what, we'll labor it, the last part of the game. And because they do this, and because they take their foot off the gas, next thing you know, Lou Williams, Smooth Lou, that's what I call him, he just starts scoring on a tear. And they have this guy named Montrezl Harrell, and he's like a beast in the center area. And they got this guy named Landry Shamet, and Landry shoots outside shots very well. He kind of has a Klay Thompson look to the guy. So, lo and behold, the Clippers, they make this comeback, and I'm just going, what? And I look at it in the end, and they end up, it's I think it was it was seconds left, and all of a sudden, Landry Shamet comes down, he takes his 3 ball, and it's a long 3, But once again, there's no coverage on the shot. Nobody tries to stop the guy from hitting the shot. He takes a wide open three. It goes in. The Clippers are up by 3 points. So you got second left. It's 134 to 131. And, everybody's talking about the officiating in the game and how the officiating's tight and, the Warriors aren't getting calls and, all these different dynamics. And I'm just trying to understand, how this situation happens. They come out of the huddle, and I tell myself, you know what they're going to do? They're going to come out. They're going to pass the ball to Steph, and Steph's going to try to hit the three ball for the win, and he's going to miss, and they're going to lose the game. And guess what happens? Steph comes out of the huddle. They inbound the pass. They set up Steph for the three. He takes the shot. He misses. They lose the game. Game 2 is lost. And you get Doc Rivers, with the big power punch of his arm, like they just knocked out Golden State. And I'm just like, wow, okay, what just happened? How in the world do you get up 31 points and you lose that game? Well, folks that are listening, I'll tell you how. One of my biggest things that I've said about Golden State this season is that their Achilles heel is they do not have good perimeter defense. Now, why they don't have good perimeter defense, I do not know. It doesn't make any sense to me. And the reason why it doesn't make any sense to me is the fact that you have Ron Adams, who is, hands down, the best defensive coach in the NBA. I don't know who you're going to get to size up against him. He's been in the league longer than anybody else. He's taught and stressed defense longer than anybody else. The only other coach that I would put up against him to come close to his defensive prowess would be Greg Popovich. But other than that, I don't really see no other coach outbeating this guy when it comes to defense. So I'm trying to understand, how is it that you have the defensive guru, and Ron Adams, and you guys aren't playing perimeter defense? But it's been their Achilles heel because you look at that game, and what was the game lost on? On a Landry Shamet shot from three-point land with nobody on him. Then you look at the fact that Golden State's other problem is all of the turnovers. In that game, they had 22 turnovers. 22 turnovers. Are you kidding me? If you got 22 turnovers, you don't really expect to win the game, do you? Now, mind you, even with the 22 turnovers, they were still in the driver's seat to win that game. They didn't win the game because they allowed Landry Shamet to get that three-point shot off with nobody covering him. That's why they lost the game. And they waited till the last minute thinking, well, you know what? We'll send Steph in, and Steph will shoot up one of his high-flying three-point shots. Didn't happen. So now what happens? Now the series is tied 1-1. And now you're going to Clipperland. Now, should the Warriors be worried? Well, no, because you're the Golden State Warriors. You don't worry about a situation like this. But this is the thing. You did give a lot for the sporting world and the sporting financials to feed on. They fed on the fact that you had all those turnovers in the game, the fact that, Patrick Beverley was in Kevin Durant's head. What else? You look at the fact that, Steph missed the game winner, which now you start wondering, okay, how many game winners has Steph really hit? And you had all these different nuances that like I said, the sporting aficionados, all the sports writers and talk show hosts like myself had something to feed on. And that's what happened. Then all of a sudden it became in question of whether or not Kevin Durant could actually play well against Patrick Beverley, which if somebody comes up with that idea in their mind, I'm thinking, you know what? You must be stupid. This is Kevin Durant we're talking about here. Okay, we ain't talking about some, power forward from some, other team. This is KD. His first nickname he got was Durantula, okay, which he doesn't like that, but I thought it was appropriate for him because when this guy goes up and takes a shot, that's it. I haven't seen anybody block that shot yet. But my point being is this. Kevin Durant is a 2-time Finals MVP. 2 times. So you're trying to tell me that Patrick Beverley A guy that, don't get me wrong, is not a bad player. Kind of, jumped around. Team was seen in Houston at one point and, played for a couple other teams. That now all of a sudden little Patrick Beverley is going to be in Kevin Durant's head? Really? Really? By the way, if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you right behind me. I can sell it to you right now. Yeah, sounds ludicrous, doesn't it? It should, because it became ludicrous. Because in Game 3, KD told the media before the game, you know who I am. I'm Kevin Durant. And sure enough, that's what we saw. Because in Game 3, Kevin Durant let everybody know, hey, look, at the end of the day, Patrick Beverley is a memory in the back of my head, and I don't have time for it. Finished with 38 points. 38 points. That's pretty meaty. You can add some sauce to that. Maybe, on that meat and that sauce, maybe add a little mac and cheese maybe, or some potatoes or something. That's a meal. 38 points, that's a meal. Okay? Kevin Durant was able to feast on a meal against the Clippers defense. And so now this series is 2-1. And they play again tomorrow night on Sunday night. Oh, actually, no, Sunday afternoon, 12:30. They're playing. And I can tell you right now, the Clippers beating Golden State probably wasn't the best thing at this point, because now what you've done is you have awakened the sleeping giant. That's what you've done, okay? The Warriors are the sleeping giant. They realize, hey, you know what? We are not taking our foot off the neck of this snake. We're going to keep our foot on the neck of this snake until it dies, until we break its throat. So that's what you got. And if I'm the Clippers, if I'm Doc Rivers right now, I'm thinking, what are we going to do? And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, Doc's got some things up his sleeve. He can move some stuff around. Yeah, he probably can. But I got a big, big issue with the fact or the premise that they're going to be able to get something done against this team. Now, we did have a situation take place where DeMarcus Cousins unfortunately went down, and he got an injury, and it wasn't a good injury. And it's the fact of the way it happened, and also the fact that it happened at all. We take a look at DeMarcus Cousins. This is a guy who, tore his Achilles when he was playing for New Orleans, ultimately, got traded, and really there was no teams that were ready to pick him up. The Warriors pick him up, and they sign him. He goes through rehab. He rehabs well. He comes back. He plays over 30 games. He has great skill set, which he already had, and also all the points that he picked up and some of the little things he was able to do. So he became a very integral piece of what Steve Kerr was going to go to do in the playoffs moving forward. And then all of a sudden he goes down, he tears a quad, and now you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks of him being out. It's sad all the way around. It's sad for DeMarcus because this is a guy who did all the right things, and look what happened. And now you start to realize, DeMarcus is not going to be a part of what happens here. And it's hard to watch if you're a Warriors fan. Not just because it's DeMarcus, but because it's a Golden State Warrior going down. You don't want to see that. And it brings horror to the back of your mind. Why? Because we know injuries are a part of the game, unfortunately. And we know moving forward that this could also happen to KD. This could happen to Steph. This could happen to Andre Iguodala. This could happen to Sean Livingston. This could happen to Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. Any one of these guys can go down with an injury, and now all of a sudden the season becomes in question. But there is one bright spot. And the one bright spot is this, is that DeMarcus, because of the injury, may be able to get re-signed by Golden State. And one of the reasons why is because of the fact that this hindrance to him, is probably not going to make him as marketable for next season. Not to mention that Golden State, will probably either match his minimum pay. So it's like, okay, if they do that, and if I'm DeMarcus Cousins, okay, why would I go anywhere else? Okay, it's like I'm already in the best situation I could possibly be in. and there's no need for me to consider, looking elsewhere. So, DeMarcus, we hope you get a speedy recovery, brother. We hope, things get better for you because, you're a Golden State Warrior. You're one of the family here. So we want to see you do well. Now, I want to shift my attention to Andrew Bogut. And the reason why I want to shift my attention to Andrew Bogut is because really, the signing of Andrew Bogut was kind of I won't say an anomaly, but it was something that you kind of looked and went, I wonder if this is possible. And then if it is, why are we doing it? At the time when they first started talking about it, this is before Andrew Bogut was even really established. I think he was just now starting to get established as a player for Golden State. But the interesting thing is, and I'll tell you something, I didn't even really know what Bogut was doing. The last time I saw Bogut, he was wearing a Cleveland Cavaliers uniform because they signed him. And then he got hurt and they pulled him off the floor. And then I heard that he had went someplace. I think he went to the Lakers or something for a brief stint. And then after that, he was kind of vanished, kind of disappeared from the league. Didn't see him. There was no talk about him. And then all of a sudden, there's talk about him coming to Golden State. And I'm thinking, okay, can he do that? I mean, can Bogut really come back? I don't understand what's been going on with him. Come to find out, Andrew Bogut's been playing in the Australian League. And I'm just like, what? Are you serious? Yeah, he's been in the NABL. And apparently, he wasn't just playing in that league, but apparently he got MVP honors. And I'm just like, wow, really? He either got MVP honors or the team is what they won a title or something to that. In other words, he wasn't just playing, he was playing well. And I'm like, wow. I didn't know that. I didn't fathom that. That was the last thing on my mind concerning Andrew Bogut. One, that he was playing, and two, that he was playing well. That just didn't register with me. So I find out that yes, he has been playing, and yes, he's been playing well. So all of a sudden, before you know it, there is rumor going around that Bogut said he would never go back to the NFL. NFL, listen to me, NFL, boy, Richard, to the NBA. But he said if he did, he would only play for Golden State. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. So let's let that stew for a moment. Let's take a look at that. Andrew Bogut, former NBA champion with the Golden State Warriors, says that if he comes back, if he comes back to the NBA, he's only going to play for the Golden State Warriors. And so that kind of makes me think, wow, okay, for him to say something like that and to actually mean it, to me, that says that, and mind you, this is Andrew Bogut. We're not talking about some average guy. This guy was with the Bucks. We saw he went to Cleveland. He's been with the Lakers. He's been with the Warriors. And I believe he was with another team, but I can't remember which one. But still, he spent his time in the NBA. He knows about the different organizations that are out there. So for him to say, well, you know what? I only want to play for Golden State, I think that is something that you can put great stock in. And you can put great stock in it because it means that a veteran player of his caliber obviously knows what is the best environment for himself. So he comes back, they sign him. I see him out on the court playing for Golden State, and I'm thinking, wow, Andrew Bogut looks great. I mean, he looked, I couldn't believe it was him. He looked like he lost 50 pounds. He cut his hair. He looked trim. He looked fit. He looked like he could still play. And I was just like, wow. I was amazed. I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, all right. Well, then, yeah. Well, let's get this on. Let's get this done. Let's sign Bogut and let him play. So was it smart by the Lacob and Peter Guber organization to re-sign Bogut? Absolutely. And what was also interesting was that before he got signed, apparently there was, I guess, where they went around, all the players in the league. I'm not in the league, excuse me. All the players of the Golden State Warriors. Let me rephrase that correctly. But they went around and asked them and said, look, how do you feel about the possibility of Andrew Bogut coming back? And it was a resounding yes. It's like no one said no. Everybody was on board with Andrew Bogut coming back to Golden State, including DeMarcus Cousins. So I was like, wow, okay. That says something about his pedigree of what he can provide, what he can do, what he brings to the table. And, so when he gets out there and he's playing, I'm thinking, okay, you know what? This is very, very smart. Then, of course, DeMarcus Cousins goes down. So now all of a sudden, Bogut's, situation becomes more integral, probably more than what they initially had signed him up for. But I also think, based on him making that statement, that if I come back to the NBA, the only institution or organization I'm going to play for in the NBA, in the association, is the Golden State Warriors. If I am Kevin Durant, I am taking notes. And you know why I'm taking notes? Because I just heard a very astute and veteran player in Andrew Bogut clearly say that if he's coming back to the NBA, he only wants to play for the Golden State Warriors. And so that makes me think, you know what? This man obviously knows what is the best situation for him. He knows that. He gets it. He understands it. He knows that really right now, there's no organization better than the Golden State Warriors franchise. He knows that. And if I'm Kevin Durant, I am taking notes because of the fact that that has been one of the biggest questions of the year. One of the biggest questions of the year is, where is Kevin Durant going after the season? And almost everybody has been saying, Rick Bucher from, I think it was either the Bleacher Report or ESPN. I don't know which one he's from. And I'm sure somebody's going to correct me. And that's fine. You can. I don't mind being corrected if I'm wrong. But he was one of the main ones that came out and said, well, Kevin Durant's gone after this season. But I tell you right now, if Kevin Durant leaves the Golden State Warriors, I'm taking a cue from Andrew Bogut. He is leaving the best situation that he could be in. Hands down, the best. Because if he goes to another team, and we'll bring up the narrative. What was the narrative? New York? I think it was the Knicks. And he could meet up with Kyrie and whatever else, I don't know, what was it, skeleton crew he can put together out there. That if he leaves Golden State and goes to New York, he is not going to be in the best situation anymore. By the way, he's been in the league, I think, almost 10 years, maybe 11 years. So he's only got a few more years where his body is going to tell him what he's going to be able to do. So wherever he's going, he's only got maybe 5 more years. So if you trying to go someplace where you can prove, without a shadow of a doubt that you can lead a team to a title, you got 5 seasons to make that happen. Okay? It's going to take at least a season and a half to get it together with whoever you're playing with. Versus, and mind you, this is New York City. Okay? This is a town that if you're playing professional sports and you're representing that town and you don't do it right, trust me, brother, they're going to take you out back. They're going to nail you to the stake, because that's the way reporters are in New York. You don't like the sports reporting that the way they're doing you here? Trust me, you go to New York, you're going to wish you want to come back here, brother. So my whole take is this. That's what you're dealing with if you decide to leave. Now, if you decide to stay, this is what you get. You get, most likely, another title. So you have 3 titles. If you play like you did in Game 3, you're probably going to get another Finals MVP. Oh, and by the way, you're probably going to get a max deal. And you're going to be playing in new digs. And those new digs. Folks out there listening to me, I'm sure you have seen the Chase Center. I'm sure. Hey, amazing job what those construction people are doing with that building. Amazing. So you decide to stay with Golden State. You not only get all of the accolades and you're in the best situation, according to Andrew Bogut, but you're also going to get new digs, and those new digs are going to be at the Chase Center. So let's weigh the two. You get with Golden State, with sticking with Golden State and signing a max deal, which they're going to pay you whatever money you want, and you're probably going to get a third title. And you're probably, if you, like I said, you play out like you did in Game 2, you're probably going to get another Finals MVP. You're basically you're going to be on top of the basketball world in a new arena, versus going to some place like New York where they really have nothing for you to work on. They got to bring in somebody else because you can't do it all by yourself, although that's the whole premise of you leaving there, which to this day I don't understand if you do leave, because really at the end of the day, that was the reason why you left OKC, because you were playing with people who didn't want to play together as a team. And not to mention, you'd been there 9 seasons and you didn't get a title at all. And by the way, now that Westbrook is there by himself, OKC finally won a playoff game yesterday, but it's still not looking good for OKC. So my whole take is, Mr. Durant, I hope you're listening. I hope you're listening good. I hope you're listening. Mr. Durant, please open your ear and hear what I got to tell you. What I have to tell you is this, sir. If you're smart, stay in Golden State. Can you hear me? Stay a Golden State Warrior. That is the smartest decision you can make after this season. Now, if you choose to go someplace else, then you are most likely going to reap the repercussions of that decision. So, I'm going to change the tune here. We're going to switch from the Warriors. Where's my reference, man? I got it. Okay, got my reference. Where's my reference? Here it is. Okay. So, my reference tells me that I am now switching to a program that was on a couple of nights ago, and this was on the day before the Warriors played Game 2. It was an interview with 60 Minutes, and they interviewed the Golden State Warriors, and they interviewed just about everybody. They interviewed Rick Welts, who is the general manager. They also interviewed Peter Guber and Joe Lacob. They interviewed a few of the Golden State Warriors, and they covered a few of the situations that most of us already know. The fact that they have, 5 All-Stars, the fact that, their play is really just amazing. They covered Draymond Green. They interviewed Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Sean Livingston, and Andre Iguodala. And they talked about the fact that the team was pretty much on its way to do something that hadn't been done in NBA history, and that is the ability to get to the NBA Finals a 5th straight year. Now, when they were covering this, they showed a lot of the highlights from the interview, which was amazing to watch because we all like watching Warrior highlights. And then they also talked about the fact that, the owners of the franchise, Guber and Lacob, had bought the franchise initially for $450 million, and now the franchise is worth $3 billion. And it's interesting because the Chase Center is about to open very soon, and they've already got most of their dates for events there sold out. And they also have people in line waiting to buy Warriors tickets. So these two guys have managed to put together really a business decision that goes past the idea of prosperity, really. From $450 million to $3 billion, that's amazing. But they also pointed out some other things. that most franchises go through, but it's doubly intense for the Golden State Warriors. They pointed out the fact that because they have those 5 All-Stars, they have to pay a luxury tax. It's extremely high. They also have to deal with egos. They have to deal with relationships. They have to deal with all these different, nuances that a lot of people don't see. And what was really interesting was the fact that when they were interviewing the players, they asked, the interviewer asked the team and said, okay, of all the ones sitting here right now, which one of you is the one who is always late for the team bus? And Steph Curry raised his hand. He said, I'm always the one who's always late. And I saw also frustration on the look of Kevin Durant when they asked the question and when Steph answered. And I think I also forgot they're also interviewing Klay Thompson. But the one thing that I saw in that particular situation was the frustration on his face. It said something to me. And what it said, well, it might just be the answer to why Kevin Durant may want to leave. And the answer is Kevin Durant may be frustrated with all of it, because there's an age-old proverb. With success comes pain. Okay? And we know this. We see this all the time. People who are successful have to deal with a lot. And I think that when I looked at Kevin Durant, look on his face, they were talking about something simple as Steph being late for the bus. I saw real frustration on Kevin Durant's face. That was something that he really just didn't like. And I thought about it. It's like, okay, you know what? He's been there 2 seasons. This must be something that is a real problem. He's sitting on the bus. They're waiting to go, and they can't go because Steph ain't there. And this probably happens all the time. And if it happens that many times, I could see how that could bother him. He's probably a guy who's very organized, likes to be on time, this sort of thing. But you're working with somebody that isn't, and it kind of causes a conundrum in the way the team manages its day-to-day operations. Now, when I said earlier that maybe one of the reasons why he wants to leave is because of all the things that's going on, I meant the fact that Steph being late for the bus may be one. It may be, an issue of some other things. What else we know? We know that he's been pestered by the sports aficionados about what he's going to do next season. Him and Draymond had a falling out. So you add those things to something trivial like Steph being late for the bus and all of the rest of the behind-the-scenes things that we don't know. And you add it all together, and what do you got? You got a ball of frustration. And I think that may be, it just may be, the reason why Durant may want to leave. But all of that came out in this interview that I saw on 60 Minutes. It was a good interview. And, we did gain some insight into, some of the things we know about the team. The way Kerr has to tackle and keeping all these personas together, handling all the egos. The fact that he's got to deal with the second team, those are things that, once again, with success comes pain. And so it makes me wonder, if that may be the reason why Durant may want to leave. But the interview itself, I thought was a good interview. It gained insight, but it also showed that the team is finding success because you look at the fact that all the things happened to the team over the years since they won their titles. They've been, seen with the president a couple of times. Steph Curry got on the front cover of Sports Illustrated for the first time. You look at the fact that they're being covered on 60 Minutes. All this shows success. The team is succeeding. But because of that success, like I said, there's pain. So we'll have to wait and see what happens at the end of the season. But good interview. If you want to see it, you can definitely take a look at it. I found it on YouTube. Really good interview. So let's go back to my references here. And we are moving on to what has been the talk over the last couple of days in the world of golf. And I'll be honest with you, I was kind of taken back when I saw, the caption, but it was a caption of the Masters, and I knew Tiger Woods was in it, but I didn't think that he had it in him to compete because, as we probably know, Tiger Woods hasn't really been the same ever since he fell from grace a few years back. But I remember when Tiger was winning a lot and he was being challenged pretty good by Phil Mickelson. And I had a former boss of mine, and I can't think of his name right now, but I used to work as cable and internet salesman for Astound Broadband, local cable provider here. And I had a boss, and he was really into golf. And I, on the other hand, was kind of into golf, but not that much. I'm not really that. I've seen some amazing golf shots made by some of the big guys, in the past, Arnold Palmer, Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, and, Tom Watson, just name a few. But I wasn't an actual follower of golf. I just wasn't. I mean, to me, it seemed like a sport that, first of all, you really had to pay attention because it is a long game. And then the other thing is you have to be able to afford it, okay? And obviously, I wasn't making enough to watch or play golf. So that being said, and this initially he had asked me, he said, of Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, who would you choose? And I said, well, Tiger Woods, because, excuse me, at that particular time, I think it was right after Tiger Woods had a falling out with his then wife, who was dealing with some troubles and struggles. And he told me that he chose Phil Mickelson, lefty. And he said that Phil, to him was a guy who was more of a straight arrow. He wasn't, I guess you could say seedy would be the word he used. And he was talking about the fact that Tiger Woods had, been unfaithful to his wife. But I, on the other hand, told him I chose Tiger. And the reason why I chose Tiger is because of the fact that when I looked at Tiger Woods, the man, I realized that Tiger Woods, to me, was more of a realistic type of man, unlike Phil Mickelson. And based on what he had stated, Phil Mickelson was supposed to be like this guy who played good golf, was a good father, good husband, never cheated on his wife, and so because of that, he was just this great guy. But I didn't really believe that, and the reason why is because to me, I thought no man is like that. I thought every man is a sinner. Every man makes mistakes. And so to say that, Phil Mickelson's a better guy because he didn't cheat on his wife, it's like, well, wait a minute. You don't know Phil Mickelson intimately, and you really don't know if he did or if he didn't to say that. So that's the reason why I never really took what he said as, fine fruit or anything. But I always thought Tiger was someone I selected because he was a sinner. He was like the rest of us. He could fall from grace. He could sin. He's not perfect. And I don't think anybody is. But what was very, very, I should say, the word I want to use is inspiring would be the word I would use. To see and find out that Tiger Woods had won the Masters. And I thought, wow, that is amazing. That is just, I was like, really? He did? He won the Masters? And I thought, okay, because he had won, I think he had won one other major before this one. But we all know, when it comes to football, the biggest stage is the Super Bowl. No question about that. But when it comes to golf, the biggest stage is the Masters. The Masters is the Super Bowl golf. Okay? So when he won, I was like, wow. And I thought, don't get me wrong. We want to see the Warriors win another title. But Tiger Woods winning the Masters is probably going to be the feel-good story of the year. It really is. Because you always think of individuals who have fallen, individuals who've sinned, individuals who for whatever reason couldn't meet the standards. And they couldn't meet those standards because of who they are, because they are imperfect. And you always want to see a person get what's called redemption. And I think Tiger Woods got redeemed when he won that Masters contest. It was amazing. You watched him. He hit the last putt. He walked off and walked towards the clubhouse. He was all smiles, and the crowd was cheering him. And it was something that we'd seen before, but when we saw it before, it wasn't the same. When we saw it before, we saw a Tiger Woods that was young, cocky. He was arrogant. He knew he was going to win the Masters. He knew how he was going to win, and he was letting the competition know, you're never going to be able to get close to me when it comes to the way I play golf. But this time, we saw something different in Tiger Woods. What did we see? We saw a man who had been redeemed. He was a man who was back in the limelight. But when he was in that, he was not, standing on top and looking down on everybody else. No, he was equal to everybody else. And he was glad to win and win with dignity. And that's what he was able to do. And when you looked at him, you thought, okay, here's a guy who was one of the greatest, and still is considered one of the greatest golfers to play the game, but he's got some mud on his feet. He's not perfect. He's made some mistakes, and you know what? We forgive you, and you know what? We welcome you back. But when you came back this time, or when you went to win a contest this time, you did it humbly. He's walking down towards the clubhouse. He's grinning ear to ear. He's getting high fives from people. His caddy gives him a big hug. He sees his kids. He gives them a big hug. He hugs his mother. I mean, it was something that you just wanted to see. You just wanted to see Tiger redeemed, because you felt like, you know what? This is a guy that we all cheered. We all liked to see Tiger win. We all wanted to see him with his black hat and his red shirt and his black slacks. And that's what he wore when he won again at Masters. He had on his signature outfit, which really separated him from all the other golfers. But when he came down that walkway to go to the clubhouse, he wasn't separated from all the other golfers. He was with them. They were contestants. They were all competing, and he respected them. And when he put on that green jacket, they respected him. So congratulations to Mr. Tiger Woods for winning the Masters. Excellent story. So I'm still looking at my references here. And what do I got next? The San Jose Sharks. Okay, look, I'm trying to figure out what would be the best way to come into this one, because I don't know about you, but if you're living in the Bay Area and you're looking at hockey, the Sharks are all we got. We don't have, we're not like Canada, where they got Toronto and Montreal, and we don't have any of that. All we got is the Sharks. Okay? LA's got two teams. We got one team. That's it. Okay, and if the Sharks don't win, we have no stake in the NHL. That's it. We're done. Stick a fork in us. So in essence, I really feel for Shark fans because Shark fans are just so loyal. They're like Golden State Warrior fans. The Sharks could have the worst season ever, and they will have people screaming and yelling at the top of their lungs, wearing teal with the Shark logo, screaming for the Sharks. That's how much they want that team to win. And yet, you look at the Sharks and you think, what do you say? What do you do? They got these players that are diehard. These guys have been playing. Oh man, what is it? They got to a point where they were this close to winning the Stanley Cup, Lord Byron's Stanley Cup. They got so close, they forced a Game 7, and then they ended up losing. You're like, you were that close. How in the world did you allow that to happen? You were close. You were there. It was yours for the taking. But instead, Pittsburgh Penguins, they get the win. Sharks go home losers. And then when they go home the very next season, they get to the playoff, they're out in the first round. And then this year, what do? They get to the playoffs, and they're in another situation where they're looking at elimination. So the Sharks right now are down 3-1. They're down 3-1 because they won their game the other night. They had to. Either that, they would have been eliminated. They would have been swept. So now they're playing for the playoff lives. And if they don't keep winning, then it's another season of dismal for the Shark fan base, which I really have to say I'm very, very sorry about that. I just feel terrible for the Shark organization and for that fan base. What are you going to do? It just tears your heart out seeing this team, week after week, year after year, trying to find ways to win it all. And you look at other franchises, I mean, come on. The Golden Knights, really? It's like they haven't even been in the league, not even 2 years. In 2 straight years, they've been in the playoffs. And the first year, they almost got to the Stanley Cup. I think they almost did. I think they either played it or something. They got close. They got real close. But for Shark fans, this has just got to be absolutely horrible. Well, we got a few more minutes, and we're coming up on the break. As much as I want to lament how sorry I feel for the Shark fan base and it sounds like Sharks as a whole, I honestly feel that I want to continue to root for them because they're one of those teams that just never say die. They never give up. And as much as the league wants to treat them like, they're probably not that pivotal of opponent, although in the last 3 seasons they have been. And then maybe that's the reason why they've been losing recently, because the other teams now realize, okay, look, this is a team you got to play respect to, okay? Otherwise, this could get real ugly, because they have been proven competitive in the past. They've done that. They've been competitive. So I just hope they can figure out a way to get out of this hole they're in, down 3-1. It's just something you don't want to see. And that's kind of where we're at on the Sharks. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's just that you just don't want to see these guys go down again. But there's probably an 85% chance that's going to happen, down 3-1. I just don't see them coming back for this. Although I will say this much, in the NHL, it has happened. It has happened. Okay? So we don't want to just write them off right away, but pretty soon, they if they don't do something fast, this could get ugly. By the way, yes, if you're wondering if you're listening to the right station, ask yourself a few questions. If you're listening to the station right now, you listen to my voice, and you're listening because you're trying to get a recipe for a cooking show, you're listening to the wrong station. If you're listening to the station right now and you want to get tips on, how to repair your car, you're listening to the wrong station. But if you want to know or understand how the Giants are doing this year, or how the A's are doing this year, or what the NFL draft is going to produce this year, you are listening to the right station. You are listening to allbearsports.com radio show. I am your host, Richard the Razor Ewing. This is exclusively on FCC Free Radio. We do this on Saturdays from 4 to 6. So if you got your ear open and you're listening, then good. You want insight on Bears sports. That's why you're listening. And that's a good thing because I can bring it to you. I have a fantastic producer here in John Miller. John's been doing this for probably longer than I've been alive, but if I say that, then he's probably ancient, so I'm probably not going to do that. So, but we have a great time here on Saturdays from 4 to 6. We got a few more minutes here. We're coming up on the break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Warriors again because that's what I do here. I'm a big Warriors fan, but we're going to cover the Giants. We're going to cover the A's. We're going to look at the NFL draft. We're going to look at the scheduling for both the Raiders and the Niners. And in the NFL draft particularly, we're going to take a good look at exactly why the 49ers probably should choose Quinnen Williams over Nick Bosa. I know some of y'all out there listening thinking, well, wait a minute, Rich. Nick is the guy. Come on. You look, yeah, I get that. And yeah, the Bosa family. And yeah, they got a lot of people. They've been in football for a long time. And his brother used to play and all that good stuff. But Bosa had an injury. Williams did not. If I'm John Lynch, okay, wait a minute. I won't say John Lynch. Parag Marante. I know he's the one who actually makes those decisions as far as contracts being cut. But I'm saying that if I'm going to choose somebody, and I get it, the fact that he's not an inside linebacker and you need the inside guy, or I should say, no, another edge rusher, and Quinnen Williams is an inside guy, then yeah, you probably would go with both. So I get that. But something tells me in the back of my mind that if they pick up Quinnen Williams, this guy from Alabama is a beast. And I think that you need a stud, just a big powerhouse of a stud to get on that defensive line. I think Williams is the guy. And correct me if I'm wrong. A season will tell. And I'll tell you something. They made this mistake last season when they went ahead and they got Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster and they give up Mitchell Trubisky. And don't get me wrong, Garoppolo's the guy. I get that. But still, who fared better? The Bears. Now, I know there was a lot of other things, mechanics went with that. Nobody knew that the Raiders were going to trade Khalil Mack to the Bears. Nobody saw that coming. I get all that. But still, at the end of the day, hey, what happened? Bears go to playoffs. Niners are looking for clues. So when it really comes down to it, I think this time they may want to rethink just picking up the number 2 option just because he's in the position to do so. I think they ought of considering Quinnen Williams. Now, I know it sounds like the same thing they did last year because they traded down and everything, and they're probably going to have to do that to get Williams this time. But a lot of that still depends on what happens with Kyler Murray at number 1. So we're going to have to wait on that. But we're going to talk about it when we come back. Shout out to some good friends of mine. Kim Nelson, shout out to you. Mike the Shoe Shoeman. Normally I need to have you here in your seat, Mike. I know you're probably kicking back, having your feet up and drinking Mai Tais and having a good time. Unlike me, coming in here, having a good time, but not out on the beach with my feet up with Mai Tais. So, that being said, as I said before, you're listening to allbearsports.com. Bears Sports Magnified on FCC Free Radio. We'll be back in about coming up on 15 seconds. And we will be back in a moment.
For the entire night, we just followed it, not in a creepy way. They invited us to go with them to different parties to the Castro, and that was pretty dope. And then I do remember at one point being stoked.
program is rated TV MAL and contains strong language and adult content. Discretion is advised.
Vibe out. You're in the borough.
I told y'all, here they come now. You see them? Both of the crews. I told y'all. They look like they gonna fight too. Serious. See what I told y'all?
What up? What's up, party people? Welcome back to yet another episode of Live and Direct at the Boroughs, the Borough DJs. Collaboration with the one and only B-Side Mikey.
What's up, dog?
It's that time, ladies and gentlemen, of the year when your boys come through. We sit down, we play some good music, we chop it up about music on the microphone. We just have fun, and we invite you guys to come into our party and just enjoy the holiday festivities.
That's right, man. What's today's word? Collaborate.
Yes.
Yes.
Third annual?
Third annual.
The third annual collaboration show.
Third annual collaboration show.
All right.
I do it a little different, because I'm always reaching out to all those blues-loving, rock and rollin', stoner rock metalheads around the planet.
Yes, sir.
So when I do this show with you, it's different, man. I mean, I'm digging it. I'm not going to give up who I'm doing yet, should I?
No, yeah. Matter of fact, we're going to get into what we're going to do tonight. Of course, I'm starting off because you're listening to my show first.
That's right.
From 6 to 8 p.m. right here, Studio 2B, the world famous Studio 2B. What I'll be doing for the first 2 hours of our collaboration, I'm playing James Brown, as usual, saluting to the Godfather of Soul himself, who, passed away on Christmas 3 years ago, I do believe.
I think it was
3 years ago. So, every year I do similar to what I'm doing right now. I like to get into some Godfather joints, you know what I'm saying? So I'm playing some James Brown originals, and then the second hour I'm getting into some hip-hop joints that sample James Brown. So that's what I'm doing. What you doing, bro?
See, man, because you just dropped. I didn't know what you were doing, man. You kept that silent. You kept it silent. What a punk ass.
You told me what you was doing, so I had to, build off of that. So
I'm gonna run again as Boro's show bleeds in. Mine's from 8 to 10, and I'm just gonna start doing a Tribe Called Quest for like 2 hours straight and drop that in everyone's ear hole. Well, yeah. Where's the crowd? Everyone's clapping. Where's the crowd? Where's the cheering? Where's all the cheerleaders? Oh, there it is. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Give a little off for James. Give a little off for James. Yeah.
So that's what we doing, ladies and gentlemen. Fun antics as usual. We still in party mode. Because that's what we do around this time of the year, man. We just enjoy, the end of the year. We made it through.
We did.
Almost. And
Almost.
We look forward to next year.
Big time. This year treated me all right, man. It had some ups and downs, but, God bless. We're up. We're alive. We're looking at each other face to face doing another collab.
Exactly, bro. Exactly.
Can't beat that.
That's a good thing. You feel me?
I do.
Yo.
It's good to see you, man.
All right, good to see you too, bro.
Good to see you and all your folks, man. All your folks. Hats off to all your folks that listen to the Borough DJs, man. I tell them all the time, he is the man. Mighty L is the man, and we argue about it.
We're not going to get into that tonight.
Yeah, we argue.
Even though I am the opening act, but,
No, see, here we go, man. Back to bar brawling, man. You folks ever see this man work in the studio? It amazes you, man.
Yeah, I try to do my thing, bro. But you do, too. You do your thing, too. So we will see that at 8 o'clock.
We got it.
All right, man. So you know what? Let's not hold up the show anymore. Let's get right into it. We back in a few minutes or so to, chomp at your ear a little bit and get back into some music after that and vice versa and back and forth. So, just chill out, sit down, relax, strap yourself in because it's going to be a hell of a show.
4 hours, brother.
4 hours, man.
4
Marathon
hours.
style.
That's
Marathon.
Right. Crack open a little cold, tasty adult beverage.
Yeah, man.
Or whatever you may do.
Gotta
Kick
do that
back.
right now.
Yeah.
So let's get into it right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's Borough DJs. Yeah.
And we're back. This is allbearsports.com, Bear Sports Magnified. I am your host, Richard the Razor Ewing. Welcome back. And when I left, we were talking about the 49ers and the Raiders and the NFL draft. And the NFL draft is kind of one of these things I call, gambling. I call it gambling. Because it is gambling. Because first of all, when you look at the NFL draft, what do you got? You got a collective of players that are coming out of college, and really, the only ones that are actually, that are set up to actually make an impact are usually individuals who come out of the national title game. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of the other bowls, Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl, some of those other bowls, there's some players that come out of those that do actually make an impact on the NFL. Which, when you think about it, it's still a crapshoot because you don't know, first of all, if they're going to work out in the schemes that are put together by the NFL franchises, and then also whether or not if they're going to have longevity in the league, if they're going to be to make a name for themselves. Some of these individuals will go into the NFL, and some of them won't even last the first season. Some of them will go to the practice squads. And the thing about the practice squads, the way that whole thing works, is that the practice squads are individuals who, for whatever reason, couldn't make the team, and now they're there solely to make the starters better by practicing with them. And really, it's a tough way to play in the NFL because, and I don't know how they get compensated for that, but it's really tough because all you're there to do is to practice football. You're playing football, but you're just not playing, on a regular team. You're playing, but you're not playing in live games. Okay, you're not being featured, and you won't be featured until something happens or somebody goes down, and you excel on the practice squad so much that all of a sudden, when that person does go down, now all of a sudden, they're going to call you up because they really, really need somebody, and they don't have the time or the resources to go out and get somebody, who's going to fill in this spot and do exactly what they need to do. And you're the one who's been there for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and they know what you're capable of. They've been watching your work ethic, and now they're going to plug you in. So you're like basically a PP, plug and play, and they're going to put you in there, and all of a sudden now you are being featured, okay? And that happens rarely when you're on the practice squad. So, and that's kind of really as you could say, the basis for people who come out of college and go into the NFL. That's what they're practically facing. Now, don't get me wrong. You have some that are so good in their craft, regardless of what position they're playing, whether they're playing receiver, quarterback, running back, defensive tackle, left tackle, offensive lineman, any one of those positions, cornerback, and they're just so good at what they do that they do get put into, the starting lineup because they're just that good. One of the people I could think of is like a Richard Sherman. Here's a guy who came out of Stanford. Stanford was very good, by the way, when he was on that team. He left there. He goes to Seattle. He plays, I don't know, maybe 4 to 6 seasons there. They get a title. Things don't work out so well. Now he's in San Francisco, and he's still starting. So that is a prime example of, a person coming out of college, going to the NFL, and making a name for himself. But the interesting thing is that when you select the player you select for the draft, it either means one of the two things. It's because you have a plan for this individual, or you're using him, okay, to either bait another team to get you to move up in the draft to select someone you really want, or you're going to use him to trade for somebody else. And so that's the reason why I call it gambling, because that's really what you're doing when you choose for the draft. Now, the 49ers, they have the number 2 pick this year. And generally, if you're in the top 5 for draft picks, it generally means that your team sucked. Okay, so the Niners are one of those teams, and the Raiders, unfortunately, and these are both Bay Area teams. So, yes, this is very difficult for me to talk about because I don't like the fact that our football teams suck, but they do right now. So, and when I say suck, I don't mean suck to the point where, I don't believe in them. I'm just saying they didn't have good seasons. And when you don't have good seasons, then you're high up in the draft. So you get most likely the number 1 all the way to number 5 in the draft. So you get the top picks, and they're usually good players. So the Niners have the number 2 pick. And the talk around the sports world is that, well, they're probably going to go with Nick Bosa. And people are saying that because everybody believes that Kyler Murray, out of Oklahoma, which is supposed to be the number 1 pick, is probably going to get picked up by Arizona, which that in itself is a conundrum because you're still trying to figure out why Arizona would do that. They already have Josh Rosen. But apparently it looks, or it appears, that Josh Rosen is not working out as well for whatever reason. Now, mind you, Arizona did not have a great season last year, but they did manage to beat the Niners twice, which I don't understand why, because one of those games the Niners should have won, and they just didn't by a point or two. In either case, Josh Rosen is a person that it appears that Arizona is looking to move on, either trade or make him a backup to Kyler Murray. Now, if that happens, then yes, the Niners will have Nick Bosa as the overall pick, or they could trade down. It's up to them. Now, also, the Raiders have the number 4 pick. So the Raiders could be in line to pick up Quinnen Williams, which would be, good for the Raiders. Now, personally, I believe that the Niners should trade down for Quinnen Williams instead of Nick Bosa. And one of the reasons why is because Nick Bosa was injured, and he missed a lot of games because of his injury. Mind you, his brother used to play, and his brother also became injured. So there is, an injury-prone type of scenario concerning the Bosas as far as when they played in the NFL. Now, moving back to Quinnen Williams. The reason why we select Quinnen Williams because, Williams has never been injured. Williams is a beast. You saw him in Alabama. You saw how great Alabama was until they ran into Clemson. But still, when we look at defensive players and we look at offensive players and we look at players as a whole, Alabama is producing some solid quality players. So that's the reason why I still think they should go Quinnen Williams. Now, they may not listen to me. After all, who am I? I'm just some guy sitting behind a microphone in a desk. So they may end up going with Bosa anyway. But we also know what happened last season when they traded down for Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster, and they gave up Mitchell Trubisky to do so. And in the beginning, everybody thought that was one of the smartest moves John Lynch had made as the new GM. Come to find out, things didn't work out so well. Reuben Foster got into some trouble. Then all of a sudden, he's no longer a Niner, and Solomon Thomas has been subpar. And then you look at Mitchell Trubisky, who became the starting quarterback of the Chicago Bears, and you look at the Bears did pick up Khalil Mack from the trade from the Raiders. Now, mind you, I don't think any of us knew that Khalil Mack was going to end up going to the Bears, but it did happen, and because of that, the Bears' defense got better. Not to mention that the Chicago Bears offense got superior, but it was good enough. And sometimes in this league, in NFL, if you have a great defense and a so-so offense, you can win games. And that's what Chicago did. They even went to the playoffs. So with that in mind, when I look at the NFL draft, as I said before, yes, it is gambling, but you can sometimes pick out a stud from the list. And I think Quinnen Williams is that stud. It's just my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Okay, so we look at, where's my references? The San Francisco Giants. I know that's something you probably don't want to talk about, but we're going to have to, because the Giants, it's interesting that all this season the sports aficionados pretty much went on a tear and, kind of, stated that the Giants probably would be subpar this season. Why? Because they were dead last season, or close to dead last. And really, they didn't bring anything new in the lineup, which they had this guy named Connor Joe. I, to this day, don't really understand who Connor Joe is or why we brought him up or why they brought him in the first place. And my understanding is I don't even know if he's still playing for him. But, yeah, there's Connor Joe. And then they did sign Kevin Pillar because they needed some outfield, and that was a huge concern because last season their outfield sucked. They needed some power hitting. They signed Kevin Pillar. Kevin Pillar has been putting up some runs. Not a great deal of runs, but some. Brandon Belt has put up some runs this year as well. But really, not much coming out of, Bruce Bochy's last year at the skipper at the helm for the Giants, which is really sad because we all love Bruce Bochy. We think he's a fantastic coach. Got him to, 3 titles in 5 years. And he's made it very clear that he is stepping down as a skipper after the season. So you would think, okay, guys, we got something to play for here. We're playing for Boch. But no, it's still kind of where, kind of a so-so season. Not really sure how the season's going to pan out, and it's just not looking good. I don't know. Like I said, Giants fans are probably not really happy with the outcome. The pitching has been stellar, but the offense has not been stellar, and I think that's really no question about it. That is what's hurting them. They were playing Pittsburgh today. There was a rain delay, and then they lost 4-1 yesterday against the Pirates. So they play tomorrow against the Pirates. And then they have the Blue Jays on Wednesday. Then they have the Yankees, on Saturday. So they got a few days off after that. Maybe the few days off will help them. But as of right now, the Giants are not getting it done. I mean, they're in last place. They're 8-13 right now. And yeah, I mean, I don't really know, what to say to that. I don't know how to respond to that. And maybe it's because Giants fans, we Giants fans are spoiled. Maybe because they won 3 out of 5, we just want to keep watching winning, and I know we do. I mean, I get it. I mean, I it would kill me once the Warriors get to the point where, what they got over there starts to diminish, and we know it's going to happen pretty soon. We just don't know when. It can't stay forever. Eventually at some point it is going to go away, and when it does, I guess things will be a little harder to deal with because one of the premises about being in the San Francisco Bay Area, East Bay, West Bay, South Bay, North Bay, we all love our sports franchises here to win. We just do. And some people will say, well, you know what? There's other cities, there's other towns that are more sports oriented. Well, that may be the perception. But when I look at the sports franchises we have out here, I believe we have 5. Let's see. You have A's, Giants, Warriors, Niners, Sharks, Raiders. That's 6, actually. So, I mean, 6 franchises, I think that makes that we are definitely sports oriented out here. And I don't see why we couldn't compete with any other sports towns like Boston, New England, and New York and LA and all these others because we got sports franchises out here too. And we want to see our teams win. So I know it's difficult to watch the Giants this season. I know it was difficult last season. It's really going to be difficult after this season because they're going to have to bring in a new manager. You know, you don't really know how that's going to turn out. That's going to take some time for them to gel. So there's probably going to be some more losing going on. But it's kind of the nature of the business, unfortunately. Can't win them all, unfortunately, right? Well, and unfortunately right now, the Giants aren't winning them all. 8-13 pretty much says that. Now, moving on, if you see me keep looking over here, it's because I'm checking my where I get my information. And I get my information from the internet like you do. That's right. It's no secret. Hey, man, that's what the internet's for, right? That's right. You want to know something? You look it up, right? Okay. So, the A's got beat up pretty good the other day. You know, they got beat up by the Toronto Blue. The Blue Jays beat the A's like they stole something. That's a phrase I use pretty often here. You know, when you lose it bad, it's a phrase you get beat like you stole something. That's a phrase they used to use when I was a kid. Basically, what it means is if you stole something back in that time, what they didn't do is they didn't call the police. They just took y'all back and beat the crap out of you. Okay? As a matter of fact, that beating was so bad, you wish they did call the police. Okay? So that was kind of what happened to the A's the other day. The A's got beat 10-1 by Toronto. 10-1. And that's pretty bad. But there is a silver lining. The A's did manage to keep, or we are going to keep, one KD here for a little while. And unfortunately, I won't say it's not, but right now it doesn't look like it's Kevin Durant. And I only say that because we don't know what Kevin Durant's going to say after the season. But it does look like Chris Davis, the other KD for the A's, is going to be here. He signed a 2-year deal. I think it's worth $16 million. So he's going to be here for 2 more seasons. He's going to be here at least till 2021 with the Oakland A's, and that is good to hear. Because Crush Davis is what they like to call him. It does that. You know, he gets to the plate and he crushes it. Okay? And we all like to watch, you know, Chris Davis crush it. Because when he crushes the ball, then the ball goes out of the park. And that means runs for the A's, and that means W's for the A's. So that was a good thing. We also have the issue still looming, and this issue's been looming with the A's for I don't know how long now. It's like, ugh, this is getting, okay. Are you going to, it's like, man, really? It's like Dave Kaval. Yes, Dave Kaval. Okay, if you're wondering who Dave Kaval is is one of the owners for the Oakland A's, okay? I want to say the correct name. I may mess it up. If I do, forgive me. I think it's John Wolf or something Wolf was Lou Wolf, excuse me. Yeah, Lou Wolf was the major owner, executive owner for the A's. And he finally stepped down. And when he did, Dave Kaval stepped up. And Dave Kaval's done some really great things for the A's. He's made the experience more accessible to the fans. He's done some great things over there. But the one thing he has not been able to cement yet is to figure out when they're going to be able to put together a stadium, a new stadium. That's what they've been talking about, the stadium. When is it going to get built? How is it going to get built? Where is it going to get built? How much is it going to cost to get it built? But it's still a situation right now where it's just talk. There is no blueprints for it. There's no contract being drawn up. There's no talk about it. It's just him once again saying that they're going to get this stadium done. But instead, we haven't heard anything. Now, we all know Dave Kaval wants to do the right thing. We know that. Okay? But as much as he wants to do the right thing, nothing's happened. I'm going to tell you something. I like Dave Cavill. I think his approach to what's going on with the A's is refreshing. Obviously, what Lou Wolf was doing was not refreshing. Okay? The team was playing well, but there were just some things that were going on in the A's organization that fan base was not happy with. And when we think about the years when they had those good seasons of winning, it wasn't because of Lou Wolf. Really, it was because of Billy Beane. Because Billy Beane became an analyst and started understanding the analytics of the game and started really incorporating those ideas into the A's lineup. And because of that, the A's started putting together winning seasons. And A's fans are loyal, just like Warriors fans are loyal, just like Shark fans are loyal, just like Giants fans are loyal. Well, actually, poor Giants fans were probably going to have to wait on that. Look, I'm only saying that because right now they're not winning, and there's been talk that ticket sales have been down. I mean, I actually don't know because, I don't get ticket counts, as far as day-to-day and how many people are actually going out to the game. But there has been talk that ticket prices have been down, or ticket sales, have been down. Okay, so that being said, Mr. Cavill, you got to do something to get this done. Because a stadium is going to breathe life into that franchise. And I say breathe life into it because right now, don't get me wrong, it's not lifeless, okay? In other words, the A's franchise organization is not dead, but it could use a boost. Franchise, new stadium, does that. Now, when we think about the fact that they re-signed Chris Davis, that's a step in the right direction. We think about the fact that they obviously need to get some other pieces to the puzzle. They haven't figured that part out yet. But it does sound like they're trying to work on it. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the A's. And yes, we're going to keep our eyes on the Giants. Look, don't you get upset at me because I said we had to keep an eye on the Giants. We have to keep an eye on our Giants. The Giants are a winning franchise, and they're here in our Bay Area, and we're going to keep our eyes on them because we love our Giants. Now, let's look at my references again. What do I got? I got the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders. Wow. Okay. Start thinking about the Raiders. What do you think about? John Gruden, next season, David Carr. I don't know if there's talk about the possibility of Arizona not picking up Kyler Murray. There's been talking about that maybe Murray could go down to the 4th spot or get traded down the 4th spot, and the Raiders could pick up Kyler Murray. But if they do that, what are they doing with Carr? And I'm just trying to understand because apparently Gruden and Carr do not necessarily get along. Wow. That would be crazy if Carr gets traded. What if he ends up in Kansas City? Oh, wow. Back up behind Patrick Mahomes. What if he ends up, oh my goodness. What if he ends up in San Diego? What if he ends up in Denver? And that would really just boggle the mind because you would look at the Oakland Raiders and you think, okay, this is a franchise that is just continuing in the dismantling phase of what's happening with this franchise. It's like they're just like this shuttle that has come out of orbit and they're just jettisoning all this loose parts. I mean, what did they do? They jettisoned Reggie McKenzie, who's a GM. They jettisoned the offensive coordinator. I can't think of his name right now. Jack Del Rio got jettisoned. All of a sudden, Khalil Mack gets jettisoned. Michael Crabtree gets jettisoned. What? You look and I don't know. It's like all these pieces from the original Raiders core that was 12-4 is just now like loose change, just like pieces falling away from the mothership. And you wonder in the back of your mind, is Mark Davis allowing this because he just doesn't want to keep, what was going on here in Oakland? Is he just looking at what was going on in Oakland from the beginning and saying, I don't want to bring that with us to Vegas? Is that what he's saying? Because if he is, I tell you, you're a cold piece of work, man. Because you got diehard Raider fans that have been here supporting, this franchise, even when they went to L.A. And to just all of a sudden dismantle the team and whatever loose parts just, destroy and go to Vegas like that. I mean, that's one of the worst ways you could say goodbye to the fan base here. Now, I get it. There's some people here who are Warrior fans who are loyal. They're already saying, hey, look, if they go to Vegas, I'm going with them. I'm a diehard Raider fan, going to be a Raider fan for life and whatever. And I'm like, okay, great. But I'm saying to the Oakland base, which is really, in my opinion, I'm sorry, they talk about L.A. and all these other places, but everybody knows the Oakland fan base is the core fan base of the Raiders. It is. It's always been. And in my personal opinion, this is the reason why I still think letting them go to Vegas is a wrong idea. I think they should stay in Oakland. And I'll tell you something else. This thing that they're doing isn't over because there's a lot of stipulations going on. Now, mind you, they're here in Oakland, and they're going to be here for next season because I talked about this last week. They've already signed a deal with the city of Oakland, $7.5 million to play here next season. And if they need another season, then they're going to have to pay $10.5 million. So that's going to be close to $18 million Davis is going to have to shell out for the Raiders to stay here for 2 more seasons if that's what happens. Not to mention, the lawsuit from the city of Oakland is still intact against the Raiders because the city of Oakland still believes that it has the naming rights to the Oakland Raiders. And if it does, this could get really interesting because now you're dealing with the fact that the team that would go to Vegas would no longer have the Oakland Raiders name. They'd have to be called the Las Vegas Raiders or something else. I don't know, maybe not even Raiders at all. Maybe it'd be something else. But the NFL would have to put together a team here. And there'd be a new Oakland Raider regime. Now, mind you, some people say, well, you know what? That's too far-fetched, Richard. That's not going to happen. Come on. That's ludicrous thinking. But you forget it happened to the Cleveland Browns. That's right. Use your memory a bit. They did. They packed up their bags. They moved to Baltimore. And they became the Baltimore Ravens. And the Browns stayed in Cleveland because of naming rights. So the team that was in Cleveland became the Baltimore Ravens, but they put together a new franchise in Cleveland. And the interesting thing is, you look at next season, the Browns they have a pretty good squad they're putting together. They got Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. They signed Odell Beckham Jr. They got some pretty good draft picks. And these guys, some of these guys were there 2 seasons ago, so they're coming off of good seasons. I tell you something, the Browns might be the hottest ticket in the NFL next season. I know it's hard to say because you think, well, wait a minute, New England just won a Super Bowl, and that's their 6th Super Bowl in franchise history. Why wouldn't they? Well, what do we know? In the NFL, what's hot is what's talked about. And I got a feeling the Browns may be one of the most talked about franchises next year. Now, I don't want to talk like that because I don't want to talk about the Browns. They're in Cleveland. I want to talk about San Francisco. You see me, look, okay? Hey. So if that does happen, and all of a sudden you got, naming right issues, then the Raiders would go to Vegas. They wouldn't be the Raiders anymore. They'd be the Las Vegas Gamblers or whatever you want to call them, okay? And now all of a sudden, the Raiders' name rights will stay here, and the NFL would have to produce another team. Now, this will be a win-win for the NFL, no matter what happens. And the reason being is because, one, a new franchise is being started in Las Vegas, no matter what happens. That's another team. So that means they're broadening their perspective as far as money's concerned, which they always do. That's the reason why, they managed to strike up a deal, with the federal government, to approve sports gambling, which to me, I thought, wow, okay, we have transcended, the idea of crazy, okay, because that's just crazy allowing them to do it, but they are. So we look at the possibility of what ifs. I'm still just trying to understand because if I remember correctly, the city of Oakland and Libby Schaaf were at odds with Mark Davis and the Oakland Raiders. That's why the lawsuit is still intact. So how is it that both of these sides can come together in the middle of this lawsuit and sit down with a glass of wine and strike a deal for the Raiders to stay here another year and the possibility of being here in 2020? How is that even possible? Hey, it's a crazy world we live in. Very crazy. And that's kind of the reason why things like this is happening. We are definitely going to keep an eye on this. And when it comes out, you'll be hearing it right here on allbearsports.com. So now we're going to go on to my next reference. What do I got? The San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, I'm liking that. Because like I showed you, big Niner fan. So we got Jimmy G that's coming back, and he tore that Achilles. And we know torn Achilles means the worst, pretty much, almost. But last couple of seasons, I'd say last 10 seasons, coming back from Achilles has been pretty good, actually. Some athletes can do it well, some athletes kind of But apparently he's doing pretty well. They're saying he's at full practice and throwing the ball and running around, and they definitely have, I guess, his foot in a brace, I guess. And his foot is in a brace, and he's definitely stated he's going to wear it. And with good reason. That's smart. I mean, you don't want to get out there and accidentally tear it again. But you got Garoppolo. What else you got? They signed D Ford, which I was ecstatic when they did that. Because I thought, wow, okay, that D Ford's a beast. Okay, when he was at KC, remember those years when Carr was running for his life and he was getting tight? D Ford. That's right. D Ford was part of that package. Okay? Jerick McKinnon's coming back. Quan Alexander they signed. He's got a kill. That's the other thing about the 49ers. You got a lot of people on that squad coming back from Achilles injuries. 3 of them. There's Garoppolo, Quan Alexander, Jerick McKinnon. And so you just hope that one of them doesn't re-tear it again out there playing. But if everybody can stay healthy, you don't have a bad squad. You got George Kittle, who's turned out to be a stud last season, had over 15 yards receiving. Also, you have, I want to say his name right. I know I'm going to mess it up. Oh, man, and he had an injury too. I knew I was going to mess his name up. Oh, man. Witherspoon. I can't think of his first name. But here's a guy who had great athleticism and also had a great athletic ability to leap in the air. And Kello Witherspoon. I think I said it right. Anyway, I wanted to watch him this year very closely to see how he does, because he looked very athletic when he got signed on. He had, to me, a lot of the mechanics that I saw in a skilled cornerback. I thought that if they could match his speed, with his ability to use his hands and cover the ball, that this guy could really be a defensive stopper if he stayed in the league long enough. He looked good to me. So I'm going to be watching Ankello. And is it Ankello? Okay, I'm not going to try that anymore. Witherspoon, to see if he's able to come back and to really be just an enforcer, in the corner spot. You tie him on with, Dante Pettis. He's a great receiver. And people say, well, Dante hasn't been. Yeah, he has caught some amazing passes last season before he got hurt. That's another one that's coming back from injury. You just look at everything that they're trying to do on both sides of the ball. DeForest Buckner is a stud. I want to see if Armstead could have a breakout year. McGlinchey, who has turned out to be a stud. And then you figure out some of the draft picks that they can possibly get. This is back to John Lynch and oh God, I'm gonna tell you guys something. This whole getting old thing, this is awful. I mean, you come up with different ideas in your head, also they just leave, without warning. And now you're stuck trying to remember what you were gonna say. But John Lynch and company are putting together, really, in my opinion, a great squad of players. And Robert Saleh is going to have the pieces that he needs to run that defense the way he needs to. And I just think the red and gold is going to be better this year. I just think they're going to be better. I think a lot of people are just saying, well, they're probably going to, they might get to 5. No, I think they're going to be better than 500 this year. I really do. I think they're going to finish either number 3 or number 2 in the NFC West. I just think that a lot of people are underestimating them. You saw the game last year against Seattle when they got the win at the end. That was a great win, okay, and it was a great win up in Seattle, and that was a win that nobody saw coming, okay. I just think that everybody that entities like ESPN and KMBR and 95.7 The Game and Radio.com Sports and all these other sports aficionados are just really seriously overlooking them. And I also said that about the Giants this year, the San Francisco Giants. I said that this team is probably going to be better than what people think. Now, mind you, I'm not looking so hot right now because they're 8-13, but it's a long season and time will tell. But I'm saying I look at what they're trying to do, with this offense and with this sports franchise. I think this sports franchise can put together a competitive season. Wanted to also note that the 49ers lost really a great asset to their organization. This is hard to talk about, but apparently former scout of the San Francisco 49ers and former running back, I believe he was, Reggie Cobb has passed away. So it's really sad. Reggie was really a great asset to the 49ers and a great asset as a scout. He was able to use analytics in a way that allowed the 49ers to be able to select, right players and the players that would help the team win. He did this for many years after he got done playing. I believe he played with Tampa Bay as a running back for a little while, but unfortunately, he has been laid to rest. I'm sure the 49er organization is going to miss Mr. Cobb and everything that he represented the 49er faithful. So prayers and condolences out to Reggie Cobb and to his family. And I hope that they will be able to find some type of comfort in the loss of Mr. Cobb. So that being stated, and with the 49ers, coming up on 20 minutes here, so I got to make sure I get through my references on time, because if I don't, I'm going to be looking pretty sad here. So we're going to look at the schedule of the NFL for our two franchises, the Raiders and the Niners. And the Raiders schedule is an interesting schedule because in August on the 15th, and this is preseason, they have the Cardinals, and then they have the Seahawks on the 29th. They have the Broncos, and then they also have the Chiefs. Well, that's going to be a dogfight. And it's always a dogfight when they play the Chiefs, okay? Because the Chiefs and the Raiders are like the Hatfields and the McCoys. They just don't like each other. So, but that's kind of – and then, of course, they also have on the 22nd, they have the Vikings, and they have the Colts on the 29th, the Bears on October 6th, the Packers on the 20th, Texans on the 27th, Lions on November 3rd, and then the Chargers. That's going to be a nice matchup on November 7th. Chargers and Raiders and Chiefs and Raiders is always a dogfight. Those three franchises don't really like each other. More so the Raiders and Chargers and Raiders and friends. They just don't, they kind of, they just don't like each other. It's just a nasty dogfight. They play the Bengals on November 17th. The 24th, they play the Jets. And then December 1st, the Chiefs again. December 8th, they have the Titans. December 15th, the Raiders. And then, the Jaguars. On the 22nd, they have the Chargers. And then December 29th, the Broncos. I think after that, they either are in the playoffs or they're not. And that's kind of what their schedule's looking like. And I tell you something, no question, the best matchups are going to be with the Chargers and with the Chiefs because those are just difficult positions to be in when you're looking at NFL matchups. Those franchises simply just don't like each other, so they're just going to be in a heated dogfight every time they play each other. Now we're going to look at the Niners schedule, okay? San Francisco on September 8th is at the Buccaneers, and then on the 15th, they're at the Bengals. That is something I'm going to watch very closely because now these are preseason games, but I want to see the Bengals draft picks and bench guys against the Niners draft pick and bench guys, because I heard the Bengals defense is going to be really tough this year. I don't know if it is, but I heard that they are. They have the Steelers on the 22nd. Now, mind you, these are actually regular season games. Now I think about it, I'm sorry. Because on the fourth week, they got a bye. This is actually going to be a tough schedule for San Francisco. When you think about it, to have a bye early in the season. If you get a bye, you want to have a bye late in the season. You want time off, time away. But they got the bye week early. So, I mean, that's probably going to be tough on them. Not to mention, I can't help but notice that the Niners have a lot of away games this season. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 away games. That's almost half of your schedule. That's going to be pretty hard. I mean, I don't know about you, but first of all, anytime you play away, you got to, put in a lot of considerations. The fact that, there's really no schedule for them except showing up on time and being on the plane and being ready for the next game. And if you got back-to-back games, that's even worse. And then they got to get on the field and they got to practice. Man, that's basically half of your season you're going to be up in the air flying. Thank you very much, NFL schedule. We Niner fans do that like we need a hole in our head. But that's kind of what they're looking at. Now, when I look at the Raiders have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 6 games away. So like, okay, great. You gave the Raiders a better schedule than we got. Wow. And I say look, first of all, Raider Nation, don't get mad because I'm not plugging you more than the Niners. You're not going to get that here. This is allbearsports.com, and we're situated in San Francisco. So if you're mad because I'm plugging the Niners more than the Raiders, too bad. Yes, you can listen to Greg Papa. He's not actually part of the Raider. He's not the voice of the Raiders anymore. He's actually the voice of the Niners now. Okay, so you can't listen to Greg Papa anymore. Well, you could listen to 95.7 The Game. They do that over there. But here we're Niner fans. So, but don't underestimate. We do not dislike the Raiders. We don't. We see them as our crosstown cousins, and hey, that's kind of what they are. It's just that when we give the nod will always go to the Niners first. That's all. Now, if you're hating on that, I'm sorry. That's just the way with things I do here on my show. Because like I said, I'm the skipper, so I get to run things as I see fit. How you like them apples? So, we've been going almost an hour and 45 minutes. This is allbearsports.com radio show, Bears Sports Magnified. I am your host, Richard the Razor Ewing. I do this on Saturdays from 4 to 6. I really love doing this. This is fun. I enjoy talking sports. It's easier when you have somebody here to help you, i.e. Mr. Mike the Shoeman. You're not here again. Oh, by the way, big shout out to my boy B-Side Mikey. Shout out to him. He got a little older the other day. He had a birthday, and he was supposed to be here with me today, but as you can see, I'm by myself. B-Side, I know the reason why you didn't come because you had to deal with that hangover you got, okay, from too many shots. I know you took shots. It's your birthday. I know what you did. You sent an email to our producer, beloved producer, Mr. John Miller, talking about, oh, well, I can't really come in. I got a B-day leisure. Yeah, sure you did. Them shots went right to your dome skull, and once you woke up, you couldn't see straight. That's all right, though. Gotta love B-Side Mikey. Gotta love him. He's a good dude. He has the B-Side Mikey show, and normally it's on Saturday afternoons. But I'm sure he won't be there. Probably do a replay of him today. I don't think he'll be coming in the studio. But anyway, we love you, B-Side. So we've covered the A's. We've covered the Giants. We've covered the Sharks. We've covered the 49ers and the Raiders. And we've talked about the Warriors. And we're going to close out with the Warriors. And the reason why we're going to close out with the Warriors is because the Warriors are in the playoffs. Now, I know what you think. You think, well, Rich, the Sharks are in the playoffs. Yeah, well, the Sharks probably ain't going to do much in the playoffs, unfortunately. I hate to say that, really, to my Shark fans out there. They're probably going to be mad because I'm saying that. But, unfortunately, it's looking that way. 3-1, it ain't looking good. But we're going to close out with the Warriors. And one of the reasons why we're going to do that is because the Golden State Warriors have Game 4 tomorrow at 12:30 in the afternoon. And they're playing in L.A. And in my opinion, this really isn't a matchup. It isn't. The Warriors will crush the Clippers, okay? And they should crush the Clippers not because of the Clippers, but because the Warriors are just a better team. If the shoe was on the other foot, I would say the same thing about the Clippers crushing the Warriors. I've been around when the Warriors stank, and when the other team was better, they just were. It's like when Michael Jordan and the Bulls came to the Oakland Coliseum, I think that's what it was then, it wasn't a matter of if the Bulls were going to beat the Warriors. It was a matter about how much. Because at that time, we stank, okay? And that was kind of the way things were. But things have changed. And it's good for us. And we're liking it. And we ain't going to stop liking it until it's over. And it ain't over yet. So come tomorrow in the afternoon, okay? I expect the Warriors to walk out with a W and bring the Clippers back to Oracle Arena up 3-1. And then I expect them to finish the job at Oracle. And then once that's done, we're going to bring on the next competitor, which most likely will be the Houston Rockets unless the Utah Jazz can say something about that. But as it is right now, Steve Kerr and company, Ron Adams, Deron Collins, go down there and get this done so we can move on with our NBA playoff lives and work very hard to bring another title to the Bay Area. And this year, let's have the parade in San Francisco. And I know, look, I know I probably ticked off a whole bunch of people over at Oracle and over in Oakland. You guys are probably want to reach to the microphone and grab me by the throat for saying that. But I hate to say it, but if they do get one, they probably are going to have it here in San Francisco because we got to keep things real for what they are. The Chase Center is just about here. So why not have it here? Okay, you can probably come up with a lot of reasons why we shouldn't have it here, but guess what? We ain't going to go over them because we ain't got time for it. And if you're wondering if I'm having fun here right now, you better believe I am. I enjoy this. Like I say, I enjoy talking sports here on FCC Free Radio. I got my man in the corner here, back here, running things, Mr. Miller. And this is Facebook Live, so I'm enjoying that too. And I'll tell you something else. If you think that you can run a show, you think you can run your own show? Well, guess what? You can do it right here in the same studio. This is Studio 2B. You can do it right here on FCC Free Radio. You can set up your own podcast and your own show right here, just like I am, live. And all you have to do is contact FCC Free Radio. Did I just turn my microphone away from me? I did, didn't I? Let me straighten it out. Okay, all right. See, look, that's how original it is here. That's how it is. That's how original it is. You can run your own show right here. I'm doing it. No, I have to admit, I'm a great guy, you know. But I'm saying you could do that. You could have your show right here on FCC Free Radio. We're coming up on a few minutes left. Actually, less than that now. It's like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And we're going to be signing off. Next weekend, I'm going to try and institute my Pros versus Joes segment. We're going to have some pros and some Joes in here to give their feedback on Bear Sports and what's going on in our market. And we're also going to be bringing back our Throwback Legends segment. I tell you, that is a segment that I really enjoy because we get to sit down with individuals who used to play professional sports here in the Bay Area and who are no longer playing. They can give us a perspective of what it was like to play here in the Bay Area back when they played. I've had guys in here like Dennis Brown, former Super Bowl champion of the 49ers. I've had Rich Kelly, who I interviewed before, 7-foot center that came out of Woodside High School locally. And we're going to bring on some other folks. So these are some of the projects that I am working on to make allbayariasports.com your source for information concerning the Bay Area sports team and how they fare here in the Bay Area. So tune in next Saturday, 4 to 6, allbayariasports.com, Bay Area Sports Magnified. Again, I am your host, Richard the Razor Ewing. I normally have Mike the Shoe Schumann with me, but as I said earlier, he's on a small hiatus. There's no telling where he is. You know, he could be in Barbados for all I know. But I know whatever he's doing, he ain't doing much. Probably got his feet up. Probably got a nice drink. Is this becoming an ongoing thing where people just taking time off and they're just putting their feet up and having a good time and I'm in here working? I just think, B-side, the shoe. Anyway, we do this every Saturday between 4 and 6. I do appreciate you tuning in with me today. We got Joel coming in, the Boro DJs. They're up next, and they do the underground funk, man. If you want the underground funk and you want that rap style of music, then you listen to Joel and the Boro DJs. Thanks for tuning in. This has been allbayariasports.com, Bay Area Sports Magnified, with your host Richard the Razor Ewing on FCC Free Radio.